All right, hopefully we got it right this time. It looks normal. So sorry about that, guys. I hope you could still find me. Okay, so today we are going to share some great designs that are created with the Sashlee templates. So the Sashlee templates are designed really to sew straight lines, but I don't know if many people know, but we have several different sizes of Sashlee, and that makes for a lot of fun playtime. Yes, I'm right side up. Thank you, Linda. I don't know what was wrong. It looked fine on the camera, but of course on the screen it was wonky, and I know how Facebook is. It will never let you fix that. So I just had to go ahead and fix it before we got started. Okay, so I'm just going to put up a few of these so you can see the differences in these awesome tools because they're really wonderful. There's just so much fun potential with them. So I also have just one more that I'm going to pull up here, and maybe we'll scoot this guy up. We'll stick him on there. Can you guys see everything okay? Can you see? There's 4 of them right there. So I'm going to scoot out just a little bit so you can see all of them. So you can see there's different widths. These allow you to work with different widths. The reference lines right here, these are actually a 1/4 inch apart. So as you move up, you can line up things on these lines right there. And it just makes it really easy to make those 1/4 inch alignments. These are a little bit wider. So this one is the 1/2 inch. And what that assumes is that if you sewed on this side, your foot is a 1/2 inch, so this is 1 inch. So you'll get that spacing on this side, and then the space in the middle will be a 1/2 inch. If you had your foot on this side versus on this side, you'll get that 1/2 inch spacing right there. Okay, so that's this one. The 1/2 inch line works right there. Now, this one is the baby Sashlee. These are both a 1/4 inch, right? But you can see this one is a lot longer, and this is called the LSLQ6, the Sashlee template, and this is 6 inches long, so you can make a longer line. And then this one is a little shorter, but it's going to do the same exact things. You just would have to move your ruler perhaps a few more times. Okay, and then the last one, so awesome, can't wait to show you this. This is 1 inch. So when I sew with the foot on this side versus on this side, it's going to give me a spacing of 1 inch. And that's what these alignments show you. This line right here, if the foot was here, this is the needle position. And then if I want to shift down to sew the next line, I would line that line up on this line over here. So I've got a few different designs that I want to share that is, more than just making a straight line, but using some of the tools and using their different spacings to give you some value. All right, so let's get started here. So I've got a little bubble in there, so I was just trying to straighten that out so we won't have a lumpy batting there. So the first thing that we can do just right here is we're just going to do straight lines, and we'll actually travel right on this line right here. This is the most basic use that we can have, just straight lines, and we're just going to put in a little pattern. So we'll start right here, and we'll use our simple Sashlee right here at a 1/4 inch, and then we'll sew over to the top. And once we do that, why don't you guys tell me the spacing that you want? Because we're going to try to use a couple of the different ones, and we want to create a little pattern. So we want to create about 3 different widths, and then we'll repeat that and we'll create that pattern. So you guys can just pick some numbers. Our number choices are a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, and 1 inch. So just kind of put a pattern up there, and I'm probably going to take just the first person that I see. So right here, what's kind of nice about this Sashlee, this long one, mine is the long arm style, so I can use it on my long arm also. It's got that thread and needle pass-through channel, but the foot can just pass right along there because the foot is so big it can't get stuck right in this area. Okay? All right, I guess we'll work this way so you can see the seam, and we'll just have like a faux movement out there to let us move along. So pretty easy with the 1/4 inch. You would just line it up right in the center. It's very easy to see. I did not want to pick up my bobbin. We'll just sew. It'll pick it up. So right here, my needle's in the ditch right there, and I can sew right down the ditch. And I want to line my needle up right on this reference line right there as I go. So let's see. Can you guys see that? I'll sew up a little bit, and then you'll be able to see. I'm a little bit far down, I guess, for you to see. Okay, so right now, you can see not this first one, but the second one up there. I'm going to line up my needle right there, and that's where I'll stop so we can move across. So at this point, you know, right away, I can just pivot and I can sew down the line. I can move on either side of this channel. I can make the foot touch this side or this side, because right here, it's going to go very smoothly right across that. So it really doesn't matter which side that you're choosing, just keep the same side. So here, this is where we're going to start creating a pattern so that we can do our piano keys. So right now, I can use any of the lines that I see on there, and I can just sew down. And the way I would do piano keys is I would just sew this way, and I would come back to the travel line right there. Because what that allows you to do is two things. As we sew across here, we're going to keep this in the ditch, and we'll be able to have a full stitch line all the way across. Typically, this is the outside of your quilt, and so there'd be maybe a little extra batting here, and we just sew into the batting, so we don't care what happens out there. But we want a nice clean line right here as we sew along. So we'll line that up, and then we'll just sew. And we did a 1/2 inch on this one. And so we're not quite there, you can see. So I'll just keep going, and I'll go a little bit more, maybe just 1 stitch. It wasn't very much that we needed to get aligned, so now we can just go ahead and we're right on the stitch line. And we'll sew back up again and right back down. Okay, and again, I want to try to keep that alignment as neat as possible. So let's just go a very short distance here so that we can just put a little smaller space. I need 1 more stitch to line it up. So we have 2 1/2 inch, and now I guess what is that, 3/4 inch, and now we'll have a 1/2 inch right here to go up for this piano key. I've got something catching back there. It was kind of annoying. There we go. All right, and then so we did 3/4, 3/4, and 1/2. So let's just keep that the same pathway. So we got to move over enough that we can have our 2 lines lined up. I'll get this thread out of there. I got a nice long thread right there. Okay, and then this really just makes that very easy to line it up. And if I need to scoot up, I can just adjust the position really easily and just move straight up the line, keeping all of these aligned. And that really helps me to move across any kind of a ditch area. We said 2 3/4, so we need 2 spaces there again. So we'll get lined up here. I have this one little thread, he's just wants to be in the party, and he's right in the way. Okay, and so then we'll come right back to our spot right there. And then we can just keep going, and we'll just keep this path. Let's turn it a little bit so you can see the alignment that we want to have. It looks like we need 1 more stitch to go down because we're not quite in the line right there. So right here, making sure that I have that alignment. And then this was the shorter one, so this is just a very small distance. And then we should be able to get lined up. Maybe 1 more stitch, we're not quite there. So it's pretty easy to flip these guys. Let's see if we can show you that alignment. So I'm a little bit off, aren't I? Oh gosh, I can tell I really was not able to see very well. Can you tell? I'll just pull this out so you guys can see it. I'm going to lift my needle up so I can get my foot out. See how much my foot raises up, and then I can just pass that thread through there? So obviously I'm not able to see as well as I wanted to. It's going to give me this fun little step ladder right here. But you know, you want to be able to see in your ditch as you're going. Your needle should be right in the ditch, and that's going to help you move along as you're progressing. So this is very easy then to make any different pattern that you want to as far as spacing, especially if you're traveling straight across. So I do really appreciate this 1/4 inch for that. And anytime you're working in the ditch, it's also great. So right here, obviously I did not stitch very well in the ditch there. I'm kind of sad about that, but I'll just move on. Let's go ahead, we'll put this in, and I'm going to show you how we can stitch right down that ditch very well if I line it up correctly. Okay, so I'll get my needle right in place. There we go. And right here, this line is aligned right on that center chalk line. And I'll go ahead and I'll just stitch right down the line. And as I move, I'm going to keep the foot touching on the same side, and I'll line this up on the same side, right in the center there. I'll go ahead and pull it out, and I'll pull that up so you can see the ditch work that we just did. Much better than what I did before. Visibility is really a big deal. That just really helps you make your design so much better. So it's important that we can see what we're doing and not be guessing. So this is the chalk, right? And you can see it's right in that chalk line right there. This looks like my tension's a little high, so I'm going to go ahead and knock it down a little bit so maybe it'll stitch a little nicer. But you can see right here, we're right down that chalk line. So let's go ahead and use some of those same ideas, and we're going to create a little design in this box, okay? So right now I'm going to use a little bit of chalk to give you the concept of what we're going to do. This 2 unit is the row that we're going to work with. And what we're looking to do is pick some reference line and sort of sew somewhere to the middle and then back down, and then same distance here and back down to this position. And then what we would do is we would do the same thing on the bottom, like that, same thing on the bottom. And then in this line that's right here in the middle, we're going to skip over that, and we're going to repeat the design right here on this space. So that's where we'll start, and then we'll add some additional details as we go. One of the things that's great about the template is we get to choose whatever spacing that we want. And I think this might be a good time for some ruler stickers, because that's going to let us make sure that we use the correct spacing or the same spacing each time. So let's grab those so we can put a sticker on. All right, we'll use green today. Green means go. All right, I guess we need to pick our needle up so we can get our thread in there. There we go, needle down. Now, we have all these lines, and they're going to tell us where we space. So the one thing we want to do is use the same anchor point every time. So if we're on this center line, we want our foot in the hook. And that means if we arrange this to touch one of these lines to hit the middle, then it will be the same point. So right now, I'm going to put my little arrow sticker just right there. This is just a random decision. I could have made it narrower. I could make it wider. I'm just choosing that because it's easy. So if I sew right to the center and then I put the foot right in the anchor, when I sew back down to the other side, it should give me the exact same position each time. So that means this little half diamond that we're creating should be symmetrical, right? So we'll just go like that, and we're lining it up right on the center to get to the middle. So I'm just sewing on this same side again. Okay, right in the center. Now put it in the anchor, and we're going to do the same thing. We're lining the little green arrow right up on the intersection of those two lines so that we can sew our diamond up to the top. Okay, and then same thing. Right here, we'll just line it up right in the center so we can sew right back to the intersection. Okay, so I'm going to flip it so you guys can see the rest of it. I'll just show you what we've done. We just created these little mountains right there. It looks like that, a little half of a diamond. And what we can do is we want to do basically the same thing. So let's see if we'll be able to get that same position mirrored. I'm thinking that we can. I'm thinking we can use this side over here, but let's see. We want 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's flip this around this way. Put that there. Oh, we're not going to be able to get it on that side. Okay, so we're going to do it this way. We're going to line it up. I think this is going to give us a nice parallel right here because that's the shape that we want. So I think this will work out. I thought I tested that, but it didn't seem like it worked out how I thought it was going to. So right here on this end, I can line this right up so that I'm right in the center and I can get right back to the center of that intersection right there. Okay, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll just use this reference line right there and we'll sew right down to the middle so we can get back to our start point. Okay. And I've got this line right lined up with my stitch position. Okay, and we said we're going to skip the middle line, so pretty easily I can just line up my ditch line and I can sew down the chalk. And let's double check and make sure that we are aligned nicely. Looks really good from here. We're going to come right down to this position, this center position right here. So we've skipped one line. Okay, and then we're going to do that same thing. We're going to line up in the anchor position and we'll put our green arrow right on that intersection so that we can start our diamond. Let's see, I think we need maybe one more stitch to get down. There we go. Okay, same thing. Come right back to the center, right in the middle. Very easy to find with this template. Okay, same thing, pivot, put our little green arrow right there. And right back down. Okay, so I'll flip it again so you guys can follow along. So right now, this is something you could do that's a really easy fill if you wanted to, and you could also then echo any of these lines. That would make it really, really pretty and very, very easy to echo those lines. So let's go ahead and get aligned. And then right in the center there. I can even use this to align, so I'm right on the line. And then we'll do the same thing we did before. We'll kind of line that up right on that reference line on the other side. This one did not fit as well as the other one. Okay, we're trying to kind of get a parallel line so we can get back to our diamond. All right, so let me take it off. I'll show you what we have so far, and then we're going to add a few things just to make it a little bit more interesting. So I'll pick up my needle and I'll lift up my foot so we can just take it off and see what we have so far. And I'm going to put my needle back in just so my thread doesn't wander around. All right, so we've got the diamonds right here, and what we can do at this point is we want to put a little bit of embellishment sort of through the middle. So what it's supposed to look like is if this right here is the same diamond like that we just made in those other spaces, then what has to happen in this middle area is sort of a partial diamond like that, right? So these on this side are partial like that, okay? And then that means that right in this space too, you would have the partial diamond like that. Okay, so these are all going to run this direction as we go, and so we'll have a lot of these little partial things like this. So we can kind of decide where we're going to start. Maybe we could start here, fill this in, and we could work the partial down on the end, and then we can get all the way back around up to here and fill in this one. So we'll travel in this direction, okay? And here, what we do this side, we can do this side and then come back, and that way we can fill in both sides and go around the corner, okay? All right, let's start. One, two, three. So I'm going to use the same number right here on the corner as I line that up, and I should get my same position right here with that green arrow. So that should give us that same relationship. We might be, I think, one stitch off, and that'll help us get a little better position this way. So that's the partial right there. And then we'll just go to the middle. So check that position, make sure we're right on the line. And when we get to this center, we don't know our exact position, but it's a little bit north of the center right here. So as we sew down, I'm going to just guess a little bit and test it. Okay, so I want to come into that center position, just like that. And this one, if we can get this to kind of line up on this line right through the center there, I think that'll be helpful. We can use that same reference on the other side. Okay, so we'll come down here. And I think we want to go about right there. So we can try to square this up a little bit right here on that line, just like we did on the other side. That'll help us get that same spacing. So this line is perpendicular to this line. So by using that, we can help get aligned and have it be pretty square. All right, let's go down. Did you guys see that I missed? I was supposed to go all the way and I didn't, but that's okay. We'll catch it on the flip side, so it's not a problem. And then let's connect up the dots right here. And I'll check, make sure I can see. I've got the camera in the way today, so I can't see as well as I'd like to. Okay, and on this one, we want to have that partial diamond, so we'll come in with our little green arrow right there. That'll get us right to that center position. And then back to here. Okay, and then we'll use our ditch and we'll travel right down to the corner. Let's see, I think we need, before we travel, I think we need to get our little half diamond in there. Let's straighten this out so you can see where we're at. So here we've got sort of that partial, which is this part of the diamond, and that's what these are on the corner as well. So what we need right here is that same partial. So we're going to go ahead and set that up. And I think, remember, we talked about using this centered on the diamond edge to give us the spacing right here. So we're going to do that again. Okay, and then we'll come down a little bit so we can get our next diamond in. So there's that same centering line right there to help us get in. Let's make sure we're aligned right on the center. So we have a little bit of an adjustment that we can make. So there'd be a lot of thread that's happening right here at the center of this area. And that's going to be something we can use to our advantage. If we have to make any adjustments or anything, that's going to let us do that. Okay, and then let's come to that last corner. Oh, you guys, I'm such a nut today. Look at, I didn't do it. Let's line it straight back up. We're going to use this same center line to get us into the diamond because it should be a straight line. And then we'll go ahead and finish this whole piece since I flaked out on it. So just scoot it down if you need more space to get to the middle. Okay, and then we'll close it just like we said right here in the center. I'll show you. We'll use that alignment, get us right into the center. So if those intersections are a little bit wonky, I like that there's a lot of thread happening right there so that we can just kind of camouflage that. All right, let's turn it so you can see where we're going. So we want to come back. And again, we'll use some of those same reference lines if we can. So like right there, that is the same line. And if we can get that lined up, that'll get us right into the diamond on this side. Right, and then we'll come back over to this side. And we'll use that same alignment to get us right back to the center. So I do have to stitch all the way down. So I'm just going to try to make sure my alignment is as clean as possible. So I overstitch that in the exact same place. Okay. All right, now I can stitch that ditch right there and get us over where we need to be. Oh, sorry about that. I have a little brain flake right there. Okay. And then let's get us right back to this corner and we'll put this partial in and then we'll show you what we have. We have a really cute kind of a sashiko star. And then I want to show you one option that you have for how you can embellish a little bit more. So I think I need to maybe come over 1 or 2 stitches because we're not quite parallel to that other line. So right there, we're looking to kind of get parallel when we come right into the center. So you can use all of those different elements of your tool to really help you clean up your design a little bit. So let's put this partial in. And that's about 1 inch. So we need 1, 2, 3 from the center to get us right in there. So I'm measuring right here. So it's 1, 2, 3. And then we should be close to this same spacing. This is just under 1 inch, I think. So I'm right at the center, and we'll align right in that intersection right there. Okay, so I'm going to take it off and kind of show you what we have, and then I'm going to show you one thing that you can choose to do that I think would look really cool in there to embellish it a little bit. All right, so let's just put our needle down and we'll turn it so you can see. So what do you think? Do you like that so far? Now this can be done as an all-over fill. Very, very large, fill that you're capable of doing with this. And you can use your ruler stickers, you can use the reference lines that are all on here. There's so many different lines in order to match spaces and everything like that. And I love it. It is just such a pretty design. So what I want to do is this star partial right here and this star partial, it's the same as this essentially right here. So what I want to do is put a little embellishment in this that would change it. So there's a couple of ways that we can do it, and we'll talk it out and then you guys can choose which one that you want to see. The first thing that we can do is we can literally put our foot right in here, spaced, right? We can even do it at a different spacing if we wanted to. This would echo easily at 1/4 inch. We would just put our, foot in the right space and we would echo this. Another option is you could come in and you could just echo inside these diamonds like this, where we are now. And that's probably what I think we'll do because that will let us travel. We can fill in the star and we can connect it all the way down. And what we'll do is we'll change the spacing out here so that our line will come in. You guys, it looks like we're having some connection issues. I'm just going to keep going and that way I can rebroadcast later. So I'll go ahead and I'll I'll put the video out there, so if there is some kind of problem or whatever and it does give you a pause, then maybe you can come back and watch it later, because it is being taped by my phone, and my phone is obviously not having a connection issue with itself. So we'll go ahead and we'll republish it if we have some technical issues, okay? So I'm just gonna keep on going. So let's show you how we can do this one, and I'll also show you an idea for how you could do it as a path. So just like we made these diamonds, we could do this path in a linear fashion all the way down, and then we could come into the other lines and do it all the way down. So what we'll do is we'll do it here and travel all the way down, and then we'll do it back on this side, and then we'll scoot over and we'll do this side and we'll come back on this side. So that gives you 3 different options for how you can fill in this design using this awesome Sashlee template. Okay, so let's put our needle up and get our foot back in there. Okay, put our needle down. So we have all of these lines, right? And we already used our arrow sticker. If we lined this right up, then that's obviously going to stitch right on the same line. If I turn it so that this opening is touching now right at the intersection of the straight line that goes across, that is going to put my needle 1/4 inch away from where it is right now, from this stitch line. And if I didn't want to be on the fluffy side, I can actually flip this around and I could use the lines differently. I could actually make it a bigger space, or the foot itself is going to be 1/2 inch away from the existing diamond. And then we'll just sew right back in, lining everybody up just like we did before. We'll put that center line right in the middle, and that'll let us sew right to that center position. Okay, now same thing. We want to use the same relationship, 1/4 inch touching right there at the edge, and make sure we have enough room to sew in. So as we sew in, that's going to put us right at the center. It's going to put this diamond 1/2 inch above the other one. So we'll stop right at the crosshair and get ourselves aligned so we can sew right back in, right to the center. Okay, so we're right at the center. So let me flip it around. I'll just show you, I want to show you what it looks like so far. So this is what we're getting. We're getting some additional line right there. And then right here, we want to do the same thing. When we line it up, we'll make the tip of this line cross right through the top of that diamond, and then we'll sew right to there. Okay, and same thing. Now we're going to come back to the center and we'll line it up each time, just like we did previously. So you can see this is where you're going to get a lot of thread in the center, which is nice because if anything is bunky, it kind of fixes it. It just cleans it right up. So I'm using the lines, so I flipped the ruler around so I could keep using the lines. So just scooting right in the middle and get us right back to the top. Okay, so let's scoot down. I'm just going to come down to the other side so we can be in the correct position. And that way I can scoot out of the way so you can see what we've done. So I'm going to be able to stitch right in my existing stitch line. It's one thing I do like about this. I feel like I can stitch right in my line. I can easily get everything lined up. So now, let me show you. This is that difference between what we did before and what we did now. Now we have that additional diamond. And so what it does, it kind of shrinks up the star a little bit, and then you get some additional space in here. And if you're really adventurous, you could actually put a little microfill in this, and that would make this area lift and this area lift and punch all of this down, which would look really cool. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll put the same match up right here. Let's make sure we're lined up the same. So we've got that same tick mark right there. It's the first line that's right here. It's not this little corner line. It's the one that is 1/4 inch away from where the foot is right now. and that'll give us that same spacing each time. So right to the center, and then right back to the middle. We want to get right down, aligned in the center with everybody else. Okay, same thing. Just trying to use the same visual markers each time. If we kind of lose track of what we're looking for, I think that's when the rulers can be, the ruler stickers can be really helpful. I'm actually going to take this and just move it over so we can see better. Right there. Okay, this is the line that we're using to try to align right there, and I'm going to sew right into the top here. Okay, and then get down to the bottom, line it right up on the center position. Make sure you're touching on the side that you're going to be aligned on. Don't try to float in the middle of your template, okay? So let's turn it so you guys can see how we're doing so far. So we've got all these great visual lines now in this space, and this is only 8 by 8. You could do this at any size. You are totally capable of using 1 inch, 1.5, whatever you want to. We could go ahead and add an additional line here also if we wanted to, but we don't have to. It's totally up to you. So let's go ahead and we'll get this aligned on this side, and we'll finish off this part of the design so we can move on. So using that same arrow, that same reference position, that'll get us right up to that intersection nicely. Make sure you're looking to stop in the cross mark so that we don't overshoot it. And then you can line this up right here, right in the center, right at 1/4 inch to sew right back. Yeah, Sue, thank you for your comment. Sue Quill said it shows what a complicated design you can make with just one ruler. It is true, and this is a really great fill. Just using those simple different reference lines that you have on there, and you can, as I said, we use this as a cross reference, but you could always draw a cross reference on there if you wanted to. And this again makes it so easy to ditch. And also, you can even stitch your binding on at 1/4 inch using these if you want to. That's a big purpose for the Sashlee, but I think my goal was to share that there's a lot more versatile things that you can do with it than just putting on that binding. There's a lot of other things that it can do. So here's how it looks so far. And again, if we wanted to, as I said, we can put, an extra line in here on the inside going this way, or you can do these right here and do that same extra spacing right there. And I think that those just look really, really great. It's gonna look amazing. So very, very simple, but looks really complicated. It obviously has a lot of stitching because you're going through the pattern several times and you're just changing the spacing, but not that complicated to do. And you can use any kind of additional markings if you just want really ultimate precision. The one thing that makes this go a lot faster is if you do have some kind of grid. So if you have a grid stencil, I really recommend that because that makes it really easy to get this over a large area and just go to town and stitch it out. So the one that we just shared was the large Sashlee template, which stitches that 1/4 inch. And then, of course, it has a lot of additional reference lines on it that you can use, which is really convenient. So we were able to then use these as reference markers, but I'm going to show you the next template that we're going to use, and we can't use it in the same way. We can't just put our foot there and use the lines to tip and turn the template. We can only do that with this one. If we try to do that with the next one, this space is so much larger. How do you make that work? You can't really use the lines, unless your foot is on the same side. So you might be able to use it a little bit, but it's not as easy because this is not a very stable point for the foot to rest. So real quickly, I want to fun and fancy. This is the 3-2. I'm going to flip it over, 3-2 right there. And I'm just going to line it up on these reference lines on both sides and just make like a little hourglass in there so we can have some space for our design. I'm going to use the wider side, and I'm actually going to mark a straight line so that I have a reference line to start the other side so that everybody's even, right? So let's go ahead and put that in. I thought I had already put that in, but I guess not. So we'll just use this existing line right here. Flip that over. Right there. Okay, we'll have to scoot up a little bit. I don't want to sew on the center. Oh. Okay, I got to scoot it over just a little bit. What I'm looking to do is put this reference line right here on this line, so when I do the other side, I can do it the same, and they'll be perfectly lined up. So let's just stick our foot in there, and we'll just start sewing. It's okay. We'll have messy thread tails on the end, but I'm okay with that. Usually not, right? Usually I don't do that, but let's get sewing. So make sure I have enough pressure right there as I'm going around that area. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing and just get it lined up so I can have that same position right there. Okay, and we'll do one more. Okay, and let's just cut that, and we'll just go back to the other side. So what we're going to do is we want to mirror image what's happening right here. So I love this. This is going to give us this pretty hourglass kind of a look. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the 1/2 inch Sashlee, and we're going to fill it in. And I think it's going to look even more amazing. Okay, and then just align that. I'm aligning it right on that reference line so we can just complete a little bit more. Okay, and let's cut that. So that just lets you see some of the power of these back-to-back templates, and we could use the shallower side. We use this a little bit deeper side. So from the top to the bottom here, the difference in spacing on this one is 2 inches. I'll flip it over so you can see. 2 inches. So if we're at the top or we're at the bottom, it's 1 inch to the middle and 1 inch to the top. And then on the shallower side, the difference would be 3/4 to the middle and then 3/4 above. It's really unique curvature right here, right? So we can literally change directions by moving the template down a little bit. How many inches between the lines? So Lorna, the ones that I had for that design, this is an 8-inch box right here, and this is 2-inch squares for each of these. So I had a 2-inch grid, and that's how I completed this. But as I said, this can be done at many different sizes. So let's go ahead and we're going to start working on our fill for this area. And if you wanted a straight line, like if you wanted this to be parallel to this line, then you may want to go ahead and put some kind of a reference line in there. So what I'll do here is I'll just kind of give us a little reference line as well. I'll put the end here. Those are what I like to call honesty lines, and those just help you to get your design lined up. So right as we start, I mean, we're going to be starting over here, So we need some kind of a line to start us off and make sure that we don't end up going kind of crooked like that. We're going to try to go straight across. Okay? Now, one thing to note, I'm going to make some random rule for myself. And what I want is, as this dips in, I'm going to shorten it so that the edge of this opening touches wherever the stitch line is, which means that when the curve happens, it's going to stitch inside of that area. So let me turn it so you can see what I mean. If we're stitching right there, I want the opening right here to touch that sewn line right there so that as this curves around, it's not going to dip into our curvy line. So that'll be just something that we're going to use as a visual reference each time. Okay, and we'll start it off on this side just to make sure that we can align it nice. There we go. Okay, so we'll start with the curve on this side and we'll just work from that direction. So right here, I'm parallel to my line. You can even use your spacing gauge if you want to check that. Now, notice as we come down, right now, I would just sew right off of the line, right? So we've got to do exactly what we said. I'm going to scoot this up so that as this comes down to this space, we are going to curve this way. We're actually going to shift over like that. So this side now is going to be touching that stitch line, and we'll be ready to sew. Okay, now as we get to the other side, we can't see very well. Let's shift it around so we can see better. We have a couple of things that we can do to make sure that we're keeping ourselves aligned nice and straight as we move. One thing is we have the reference line that's already on here that we drew, so we can actually use that. We can also use our spacing gauge on this side, and we actually want to shift it over this way. So if you see right now, we can get everybody lined up, and we want to push this part down so that these piece right here, as we curve in, the shallowest part is touching the stitch opening. And then you can see right here, we have that 1/4 inch all the way on that other side. So let's go ahead and we'll just stitch this and we'll stitch down. So once we get a little close there, flip this over. You can line this up on the reference line and we'll pull this down, checking that spacing down on the bottom, making sure we're not going to stitch outside of where we want to go. Okay, and then as we get up close to here, we'll scoot it over and we can line it up. And again, if you have some honesty lines periodically, I think that can be really helpful. And then check the spacing right there. If you need to, push it down a little bit just to make sure you're not going to stitch outside. That's going to give you that 1/4 inch grace right there as you get to that next reference line. So we'll just keep moving this over. We have this as a visual reference, and we're going to pull this down to make sure that nothing touches up there. So it's a little narrower on this side than it is over there. So we're using the narrowest part in order to make our 1/4 inch adjustment right there. So we're getting to a really narrow space, so we're going to have to be watching and keeping track of our little narrow space right now. Make sure we don't sew beyond it. Okay, and then same thing, just keep moving this over, pull this down so that you have the spacing on the top. I've got it lined up right here, and I'm going to push it up so we don't exceed the boundary. So it's going to be much narrower as we go through this little space right here. So we just kind of have to keep track of that, keep our eyes peeled, make sure that we're paying attention. We're basically just finishing that little bit of the curvature, and then we already have to shift it over and get the other side aligned. Okay, so, and we have this visual. We actually did a good job because we're actually aligned pretty well on this center line. We could use this as the honesty line, and that'll help us if we need to make any adjustments in order to correct. So let's scoot up a little, make sure we're not too short for that one. Okay, so we're right on that visual line right there. And I will use that alignment at this point. On the front and the back, I'm gonna line it up on the honesty line now. That'll kind of correct us as we move that way, just to make sure that if we had gotten off at all, now we're corrected. All right, and let's just keep scooting. So again, now we can use the line again, because that is the honesty line. So that keeps our design nice and tight. And then we'll scoot over, line it up each time, and then check that position right here in the opening. Make sure you're wherever it is narrowest. Okay, as I get up towards the top, I'll be ready to switch that over and push up a little bit to get that next line. So you can see this goes pretty fast as a fill, and I really think that the benefit of the Fun and Fancy template of the back-to-back is it creates a really pretty interesting area that you're filling. So it adds a little bit of visual detail that is a little better than if it was just by itself and plain. I think this is gonna look really pretty, it's really fun, adds a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of movement to it, which is really great. So let's scoot up. I almost started sewing there, did you tell? That wouldn't have been good. So again, we're getting to where it's really narrow again, so we need to be checking our spacing even more right here where it's really narrow, because we're gonna have to change quickly, frequently. And if you mess up, with this, I think it would be pretty easy to just take out a little piece of wherever it was a little too long and then just fill it in, because these are all evenly spaced. If you made a mistake, it's not a big deal. So we're almost done. We'll put in just a few more just so you can get the whole impact for this area. So just making sure that I keep myself lined up. And again, little honesty lines, maybe like about every 5 to 7 inches as you go. And that way you'll have the ability to make a correction. So that definitely will help make the design as complete as you can make it. So we'll scoot. And then we'll correct right here. Get us right on the line and touching right on that little curvature. So this will be the last one. I think we'll just stop right here. This will give you the idea. So I'll just tack it real quick. Don't you think that's fun? I love it. These are awesome. So somebody had commented about my stencil grids, and I have gotten mine from Long Arm University, and the reason I like those is she is also a template designer, and she's really, really aware of the need for an intense accuracy with the ruler, and I got that with her templates, with her stencil grids. So what do you think? Isn't that fun? And then if you put a little echo out here, you would have like a fancy frame on this. I think it would look amazing. So have fun with that. This is a really easy fill. You can do this so quickly, and it's really easy then to have that visual alignment. It's not that we have to have the exact same spacing. We have the same relative spacing just by using that alignment of the inside of your template, right? We just aligned this cutaway so that it touched wherever this came in. And that gave us a minimum of 1/4 inch at the narrowest part, sometimes a little bit more as the curve drops off. So that's just an option for you. And again, of course, we could do half-inch space lines. For example, if we wanted to do piano keys with this, this would be amazing to easily just put that half-inch spacing right in there. Somebody just asked me, do I recommend the 12 by 20? The 20-inch wide is really giant. It's difficult to take with you. I have mine rolled up into a postal tube. I recommend the grid sized at the 12 by, it's not 12 by 20, I think it's 12 by 30. 12-inch by 30 or 20 by 30. And I think the 12 by 30 is more versatile for movement. But if you're doing really, really big areas, a larger grid would mean that you wouldn't have to connect the lines as many times. So I actually have both of them, and that's just the option for you. You guys can decide what's best for you. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's move on. We're gonna do something else. All right, so now we've used the half-inch for this, and we've used the 1/4 inch for this one, and we are going to use our 1-inch for its own design, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how we can combine designs right here. So we're going to use the 1/2 and the 1-inch. So let me get them up here, and let's just talk about the path really quickly before we do anything. Let's see if I have a piece of scratch paper. Okay, so go with me here. We'll have to talk it out a little bit so we can make it make sense. If my box is 4 inches, we're just going to pretend that this is, okay? Just so you can walk along with me. And we would use the grid at the 2-inch grid, right? So we would have the grid markings, which is what we already have on my paper. And let's see if you guys can see it a little better. Can you see okay? Looks a little shady on my side, but it looks good on the screen, I think. Okay, so I'm also going to mark the diagonal right here like this. And I've only got 2 on mine, but this is something that you could do as a large fill for a long area. And you can even make the squares bigger, smaller. The math part of it is, if I'm using a 1-inch spacing, so for example, I'm going to say this is my start point, okay, right here, and I'm going to sew up and over until I'm in the middle of this 2-inch square right here, okay? And I'll be able to estimate that, but I can close this first and then stitch back, and I can align my 1-inch. Where is my tool? I think I just moved it over here. I'm going to line up this 1-inch reference space on this center line, and then I'll sew down. So the way that we're going to do it, we're going to sew to the diagonal, which would give us 1 inch down here. So to the diagonal. So all of these are now 1 inch away right here from the edge, because we're going to use our tool at 1 inch. And we'll just keep sewing around. And then this is 1 inch from this space to the center, right? So when we sew in here, we're going to stop right in the middle, and we'll sew down to the center, and we're going to sew halfway right here, and then we're going to change templates. Okay? So we're just stitching around the outside using the 1/4 inch edge as the guide. Then we'll use the 1 inch, and we'll put this little spiral in all the way to the center, and then we're going to at 1/2 inch like this. Not that part, this part. Okay? And it'll put us right in the middle of that 1 inch channel. So this will be the end point for this design, right? And then we're going to sew back over to here, and we're going to sew down and to here, close it, and back to this, and this will be the new start point. If I do it this way, in these pairs of 2, I'll get a closure line here and a line open, and then if I kept going, I get a closed line and an open line. And so what that means, we'll say that this is an odd block, and this one will be the even, right? So we would do odd, even, odd, even, odd, even throughout the whole row. Then if I was doing the one above it, then I would want this to be even and this to be odd, because then it will close the gap. Okay? So I know that's complicated. but it looks amazing, so we're going to do it. So I think if you play with it on paper and you watch the video a couple of times, you'll kind of get the idea. All right, let's see. I made some little reference marks for us too. So here's my start point, and I'm going to sew around the box and close it at the center and then come back to the middle. So that's step 1. So if you just want to write that down as step 1, you'll be good to go. Okay. So let's put our template in, and we're going to start with 1 inch, and rather than switching templates a million times, I'm going to just use this edge and stitch around in the ditch, because I can do it with this template. I'll show you how. Even though it's spaced at 1 inch, if I use this edge and I line it up just to sew around as the reference line down there, well, then I'm already spaced, right? So the one thing I want to show you is, see this little line that I've made right here? I'll kind of put my little paper under there so you can see it. This is going to be important later on when we're making another design. This is where the curvature begins. So if I bring the needle past this point, it's going to curve me. And right now we are not doing any curvy lines. So if I get close to that blue line, I need to move the ruler down to keep sewing straight. And that'll be just something for you to watch for as you're sewing for yourself. Okay, so right now I'm lined up right here on the reference line. And again, always you can check it. If you want to make sure that you've got it lined up properly with your spacing gauge, you can just put that right on there. Mine looks good. So we'll sew down. And as I said right here, I don't want to start curving. I want to be able to sew right to the very tip right there. So I'm going to get myself aligned right on my spacing gauge and sew right to the top. So then I could pivot this. I can line it up just the same. We can line it up right here, and I can look and make sure that I've got everybody aligned. So just so you can see, same thing. I don't have enough room to completely stitch it. I'm going to have to move it down, but right there I have it lined right up. So this is still step 1. We're going to sew the 2 sides of this box all the way right to the very intersection of the box. Okay, and then I'm going to stitch backwards, ready? Here we go, until I'm in the middle. And I don't know exactly where that is, but if I line my 1 inch spacer up, let's see, we'll do it on this side so you could see a little better. Actually, I went a little too far. Let me show you. I know how I can tell. This is the alignment right here and right here. So right now, it tells me I went a little too far, but that's okay because this stitch line is an easy travel line. So I want this line and this line spaced right there, and this is that 1 inch. That's going to bring us right through the middle of that. And I can also use it on this side, right? Because this is 1 inch, and this side is now right through the center of our block. So that's what we want. We want to stitch right through the middle, and we'll stitch right down to the diagonal. The diagonal is useful because it tells us that we are 1 inch apart, and that's where we can pivot. So now if I rotate this, you can see I can line it up right here and right on this line right here. You can, part needs a little alignment. Okay, so stitch to the diagonal. And what we're doing right now is we're stitching inside this box, and everybody should be 1 inch apart. All the lines are 1 inch apart from the edge. So again, to the diagonal. Okay, and we'll just keep going. We're keeping whatever line that we can conveniently use. I've got the 1 inch on this side, and I'm a 1/4 inch away right here from the center. But that's where this alignment would be, right here on the center. So that's perfect as well. So we'll go right to the center position. Okay, so right there is the center. Why are we stopping at the center for this one? So let me show you why. Let's do one more and then I'll take it off and I'll show you. Right now, we are 1 inch away from this line. Right, we're going to sew right down to the center position. And I can line my 1 inch right up there, and I'm right down the center, right? So we'll just go ahead and we'll stop right in the center. and then I'll take it off so you can see what we're doing. Sue, thanks for watching. Night, night. We'll talk to you another time. All right, so you can kind of see where we are. We've had our 1 inch, and we have the space now to go all the way back out, right? So we have to figure out what's our path. I want to close the distance right here one more time. I'm going to sew this to half the distance, and let me show you what that looks like visually. It's really, really easy to estimate. You're looking to have the same distance on each side of the foot. With the needle right in the middle, you should have a 1/4 inch on each side. So now we're finished with this for the moment, so we'll put this aside. And we're going to put that 1/2 inch on, and we're going to use that now. Okay, so again, this is so easy to line up these lines. Right now, notice that we're already aligned right there. This is a 1/4 inch, and then the foot to the needle is another 1/4 inch. That's going to put us right in the middle of the space. And this is the center line, and we should be a 1/4 inch away from that, because that would be the other 1/2 inch, right? So let's go ahead. When I stitch down, I want to end up in the middle. So right there, that diagonal is my pivot reference right there. So that's going to put me a 1/4 inch away right there. And then I can just pivot this and line it up. And I'm sewing to the diagonal, just like we said. And then I'll just keep rotating this, getting this lined up right at that same alignment. I'm on this 1/2 inch. I have 1 space on the ruler and 1 space on the foot. So let's turn it, because I want you to see what it needs to look like when we stop, okay? So right here, we're going to sew right down the middle. We're not going to stop on the diagonal. We have to travel all the way in this channel until we're in the middle of this space, right? Let me turn this right here. This is the bottom channel, and we have to go down and out and around the middle. What we look for when we have a 1/4 inch remaining. Okay, so we can't use that diagonal anymore. You can literally just estimate, but that's what you're looking for right there. You're looking for that 1/4 inch. And then when I rotate that, I'm perfectly lined up, and it's the same thing as I sew here. I need to stop when I have a 1/4 inch. So I'll just start sewing, and right there, I've got that 1/4 inch right there against that stitch line. So then I can just keep pivoting, and I can line this up each time. If I'm a stitch or two off, I would position the ruler in place and then just stitch to it, right? Like if you just needed 1 stitch to get over, you can just make that adjustment, okay? Let's go ahead and get aligned so you can see we're on this outer stitch line right here. And here, this diagonal is going to work for us. So as we sew, I'm sorry about our connection challenges. It looks like we do have some stormy weather. So right here, I've lined it up. There's my 1/4 inch plus the 1/4 inch on the foot is the 1/2 inch. And at this point, I'm actually going to sew all the way down until I hit the top, and I'll close the box. Okay, so we'll go ahead, get all the way down to the bottom until we touch. And at this point, that was the odd, and now we would do the even. So let me just pull it off. I want you to be able to see what it looks like real quick before we move on. Okay, so that's the Greek key. Yeah, it just started thundering in my area too. Sorry, guys. Okay, we'll watch it later. Thanks for being here. But doesn't that look so clean and so pretty? I think it looks great. And you'll get a little rotation right here of this as we go around to the other side. So what we're gonna do is we'll come here and we'll sew one side and to this side, and then we'll do the same thing. We're gonna start that 1 inch and we'll work our way inside and down to the center, and we'll come back out. So you would essentially have an odd and an even. For this one, the start point is here, and the end point is there. And then what we can do here is the same thing. We would just sew down one side and two, and then the start point is going to be here, and we'll go this way. And when we come back out, we'll end back here, and then we'll be able to come up and do exactly the same pattern. So there's only 2 patterns, and you'd be able to go all the way across, and it's really pretty. And you can put any kind of fills in there that you want to, but that spacing just really allows you to get it really nicely. You do end up with kind of this double line right here where they both come out to the edge, and this line too. I don't care. I'm good with that. I think it looks amazing, and I'm just happy that it worked out. So I'm not trying to make it so, you know, so complicated. I wanted it to be something that you could repeat, that you could follow along with if you wanted to. So right now we don't even need to initially change this template until we get down to our start and end point. So we'll go ahead and we'll close this design out. We have to get right to this intersection right there. So let's do that. Okay, and then we'll sew down. We can line it up right there, keep everybody aligned. You can even check your space with your spacing gauge right there. And I even have some little arrows on there to help me make sure I'm going the right direction. And then here, just flip it. You'll be able to use the same template, just use the 1/4 inch markings. I think I need one more stitch right there. Okay, and then again, make sure I'm not going to cut off my little circle right there. So we'll close it right to the end of the square, and then we're going to come back. So I don't want to overshoot this coming back to the middle. We want to go ahead and switch over to that 1 inch template at this point. Always keep my key handy, make sure that they're secure so they don't get lost. So this is where we want to line up on this side, on this line, and we're going to be sewing that 1 inch away. So I'm really close. If you can see, I've got maybe 2 or 3 stitches moving this way in order to be aligned. So let's go ahead and we'll just take 1 or 2 stitches and we'll get that lined up. So this will not bring me all the way around. Remember, we just want to get to the diagonal on this first round, the outer round. If we just line it up right along there at that 1 inch, in that initial phase, that is the pivot right there where the diagonal is. So again, I'll use the same reference lines up on the top. I'll line it up. It's even aligned right up there. If you can see, it's on this line as well. That's the top part of the reference line. Let's see if we can get you up a little better so you can see better. Okay, so again, here we're working with the diagonal that's keeping us that 1 inch away. Okay, so as I pivot, if I need to take 1 more stitch to get aligned for some reason, maybe my diagonal is wonky, I'm just going to keep walking myself around using the diagonal as much as I can. Okay, so I don't have to rotate the sandwich. I'm just going to use the tools that I need to. Here I'm right at the center position. Remember that here's the line, and now the center is 1 inch away. So I'm keeping track of the spacing all the time. This is that 1 inch. So at this point, I can line this right up, and I can just sew right to the center because that is that 1 inch away position. Okay, now this is 1 inch, and this is where we're going to start going backwards. So we want to get right to the center at this point. So we can just line this up, and we're going to visually check that our needle is in the center by making sure we're a 1/4 inch from each side. So visually, I'm just checking the spacing right here. Within 1 or 2 stitches, I don't care, it's good enough, right? So I'm just looking for that 1/4 inch on each side. And you can just put your spacing gauge right there, good enough. Maybe 1 more stitch if you want to be ultra precise. Okay, so let's pull this off, and then we'll just come right out, and you'll see where we're at. So that was the 1 inch that we just finished, and we're gonna put our 1/2 inch back on. So there is some switching of templates, but I do think that the lines on these do make it really easy in order to do this design and to get aligned really quickly and get you back out. I think that it's easier to just do it than it is to watch it explained. So here's my 1/2 inch mark line on this template. This is the 1/2 inch opening. So I'm going back that way. And remember what we said, when we hit the other line that goes the opposite way, we need a 1/4 inch spacing when we hit that other line. So right now we're lined up on the reference line, and as we sew down here, we are going to stop on that diagonal, which should put us a 1/4 inch away. So the diagonal doesn't work 100% of the time, but it does work a lot of the time. So it's worth having that in there because that can be really helpful to not have to guess, where am I stopping? So on this side, it doesn't work. So I'm looking for my 1/4 inch right here, right against the foot. Right here is the space that I'm checking. And then I'll line this up right on the reference line, so we're right in the middle. See, there's a tiny gap right there. If that happens, just stitch to the ruler so that you can get yourself in the correct position. Oh, darn it. My bobbin is telling me that it's empty. All right, so I'll show you guys real quick. I have a spare. I'm always prepared. I try to be anyway. I can just roll this back and just hold it so it stays put. It's still very tacky. It's clean. It doesn't have very much lint on it. And then I'll just put my new bobbin in there. When I put it in, I do like to cut the thread initially right there. Make sure that you hold this and secure that thread and then cut it. The reason that I cut it initially is I don't want the thread being trapped underneath that sticky glider. So then just hold this, pull that out of the way, and you can just smooth everything in back into place. And then let me show you where we're at. We should be good to stitch right now. I'm going to leave this in, and I'm going to pick up right where I left off. I'll even align the template so I can have my needle exactly in the correct spot right there. Okay, now I do want to pick up that bobbin thread because otherwise he may create havoc underneath, but he's a little tricky when we cut him like that. So I think I'll just try to take a stitch. That'll help me pick him up. Right there. Oh, no, he's lying. Okay, we're just going to sew anyway. Okay, so I'm lined up, and let's just keep going. When you're coming back, always checking that you have that 1/4 inch between wherever you're stopping. So we have the diagonal right here, so we have a nice, easy visual to say we're in the right place. I can literally see the diagonal right there, and you'll see that we'll be pretty much perfectly spaced correctly away from that edge. So let's get aligned, and we'll go ahead and we'll sew this last one. And right to that diagonal. And pivot the ruler. And again, we have the diagonal right here, so we'll use that as the reference each time. And then all the way down to the last one. All right, here you go. I want you to be able to see where we're going to end. So we're lining it up right here. This will keep us nice and aligned. We've got the reference line right there. And anytime I can use the reference line, that's what I want to do because that's going to give me the nice, pretty result. So just like we sewed right down to the end with the last one where we have these 2 parallel lines, we're doing the same thing right now. We'll sew all the way down. Okay, and then when we finish up, we'll be right at the very corner. So I'll show you. Just like we started here, on this left side in the bottom corner, that's where we are now. We're now back at the beginning of the odd numbered block, and we've finished stitching the tack it off here because essentially for us, for our purposes, we're done. So I'm just going to tack it and we'll cut this. it. So what do you think? Do you like that Greek key? I think he's kind of fun. You can see that he turns. There's a little bit of this kind of movement where it goes in and out. So this one is one direction, and then this one will have a little bit of a catty corner, and you'll get that pattern all the way across. And this is very repeatable the way that we did it, because you'll basically be able to have, see how this is open right here? If we do it staggered, where we do the start point up at the top for the next one up here, then you won't have this line right here, and then you'll have a line right here to fill that in. So that would allow you to do all these rows across, and then all of these would be completely closed. Okay? All right, we have one last quick one. I don't know if we have enough time. It is already 4:30. How about I show it to you? Maybe we don't have time to sew it, but I'm going to grab my sample and I'll show you. Oh, we'll do it. We'll do it, because otherwise we'll never do it if we don't do it now, right? Let me show it to you. There's a couple different options that you have when you sew it out. So this is the 1 inch right here, and this is the top of that. And I'm going to show you how we can make these little circles. And you don't have to make them match. You can make them purposely not match if you can't align them. But I want to show you the markings that I put on it so that I could match it if I want to. So on this template, this is a 1 inch channel, which means that this is a 1 inch half circle right on the top. So you can see I've marked it. I actually took my 1 inch circle and put it underneath, and I actually marked the halfway point. And the reason I did that is so that I could fit in those perfect circles and line things up. So let's just try it, and it should go pretty quickly. But this is just another option for a fill or a border if you wanted to. Remember that we could make this as long as we want, because we can. We can make long lines to fill a very big space, and then we can just curve on the ends, or we can disconnect in the middle of some space and scoot over and do another channel and then come back and fill it in on the other side. Okay, so I'm just going to start right here, and I'm going to sew the half circle. Oh, I'm doing the wrong size, I think. Oh, darn it, I need the big one. It'll work with this one too. I'll just do one little circle on this shorter side so you can see the small circle. So what you have to do is you're going to line it up this way on the reference line that we just made, and you'd sew half of it to finish your circle. And then you have to pull this back down and line it back up again so that you can sew this part and come back to the other side. Okay, so I'm checking that I'm lined up down here, and then I would sew, and I'm a little bit wonky, I can tell. Oh, it's because I don't have a line down there, that's why. It's just crazy thread. Okay, so at this point, in order to get that safety pin, you have to scoot over. Oh, this thread is just so annoying. I cannot get him to behave. There we go. He's like very staticky on there. Okay, so you'd line it up right here. This is that reference line, and what I did is I made a 1/2 inch space, and the reason that I chose a 1/2 inch is half of a 1 inch circle is a 1/2 inch, right? So I know that the circle will fill up this little channel that I made right there perfectly. So that gives me a little space to line it up. So we want to take this off, and we're going to put the bigger circles on right now, but you could create your own pattern. If you wanted to do small circles, big circles, you can absolutely do that. The key to making this design work is you have to scoot over before you get down to the bottom, because if you sew all the way down and you start the curve, you're on the wrong side. So I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so right now I'll line this up so that I'm right in this space, and I have to be going this way, right? I have to be moving in that direction. So I'll line this up, and I'm going to sew my little half circle from the center position to the other center position, both sides lined up. And now when I sew this side, I can just sew down right on the ruler, just stay on it, and you're just going to go down to the other side. And I would be checking this. It looks like I'm a little bit off, so my line's not going to be parallel. So check this part as well. Make sure you're aligned. So we'll go up a little bit. And now I'm going to put my half circle on the reference line right there, aligning those little marks that I've made so I can sew this half of the circle. So right there, right to the center line, that little reference line that I made, and then I'll push this up and get it lined up. I've got a reference line here and there so that I can go ahead and sew the rest of that circle on this side. And I'm right to the middle, and now pull it back down so I can sew the other side. And check right here. I know that we are a little bit off, but now as we go forward, we want to try to also make sure these lines are parallel each time. That's gonna, I think, give us a little bit of a prettier look for the design. So I can literally just scoot right over, and now I can just sew down, and I'll be ready to line this up when I get down to the bottom. That's nice because I can use this as the alignment right there, so I can sew right down. So again, scooting down so I can line the reference lines up right there, and I'll sew that half of the circle. Okay, and then bring it down and line it up. I've got the reference line right there that I just stitched, so that also is important. I need to be able to line this part up. Let's turn that just a little so you can see it. So right here, you know, I should be right on this reference line when I am aligned to sew the rest of this circle, because what that tells me, that's where I came in. So that's going to help me close my circle pretty as well. So each time when you're shifting to get the rest of that circle, use whatever reference lines that you have visually available. So right now, I've got this space right here. I can put my spacing gauge on there and check and make sure that I have that correct parallel spacing right here. Just reaching behind me, I can just put my spacing gauge right on the stitch line, and now I can sew around, and I've got that pretty circle, and I can sew right down a beautiful parallel line until I get kind of close it. And right here you see this is nice and pretty, and then we'll scoot over, line it up on those reference lines, and also making sure that we can keep our 1/4 inch spacing so we have a nice pretty alignment for that design. So there's the half circle. Push it down and line it up, keeping the reference line aligned right there. I get right to my circle, and then I can pull it down and get it lined right up. And again, checking that 1/4 inch right there, that helps also make sure the circle's even, because that's how you sewed it to get there. So then we'll just go down one more. And this will probably be our last one. We'll just do this last one right there to put this part of the circle in. So again, I'm lined up on the 1/2 inch reference line, and I'm sewing from the reference line on this side to this side. Pull this down and then line up your half circle and keep all your reference lines aligned. And then right when I get there, I'm going to shift this back, and then I can put this pretty circle in here, right here. And mine is a little off this time. I'll show it to you. If mine was this off on my quilt, I wouldn't care. I would just keep sewing. Nobody's gonna know. I'll show you. As long as the circle looks circular, I don't care if I have a little double stitch like that. That would not bother me. If my circle looked very squat and not round, that would not be appreciated. I'll show you an example. See how this one does not look very round? He looks kind of like squished. I don't really prefer that. I would want that to be rounder, but I don't care if there's extra stitching. And if you have trouble making your stitching match, what you can do actually is just come down a little further and then do the other side so that they purposely don't stitch on top of each other where they're shifted. Like you can even put your 1/2 inch spacing gauge in between, and that'll give you a 1/4 inch between those. So that'll give you some additional options, okay? So anyway, that's how it looks. And then here I just put my 1/2 inch down the center of each one, and you can do that on either side to put additional fill in there if you wanted to do that. Okay, that's it. That's all for today. So I hope you guys have a great time. Norma, that's really a good question. If I was going to do this design on a border, I would probably turn the corner. So let's see if we can, like if we came in here, right, and we needed a corner, like let's say this was the corner right here, I would actually put this diagonal in, and I would stitch probably, we need 1/2 inch, right? We need a 1/2 inch on either side. So wherever, so you could just put like a little faux in there just like that. So that means maybe this would have to be a little shorter in order to give you that 1/2 inch, because your diagonal would be the limit of your advance, right? So you would have to start over here a 1/4 inch away from the diagonal, not a quarter, a 1/2 inch away, because we're using 1 inch spacing. You would have to have 1/2 inch on this side, center the circle right there, and then a 1/2 inch to come back, and then you would be able to proceed down the other way. And I think that would look completely fine. That would not bother me at all. That would be just a little shorter line right here, and the way that you could sort of figure that out is if this is the diagonal, you know, you could just box that out right there like that. Okay? All right. Have a great day, you guys. I'm going to say goodbye. Our stormy weather is here too. It's raining, hailing, and thundering. I'm sure that that's impacted.
We had massive wind throughout your whole time.
Oh, yeah. So Honey says we have a lot of wind. That was impacting our ability to broadcast. I'm sorry. If it's really bad when I check it, I'll try to post it from my phone, because the phone just keeps recording, and probably will have a cleaner upload from the phone than we did from the actual broadcast. So have a great day, you guys. I appreciate you, and happy quilting. We'll see you next time.